so much, Larry. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the kind words and well done on what you're doing with North Star. Many people chase other things and not impact. So whenever I see someone that wants to chase impact, I'm always happy to support in whatever way I can. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. I guess I don't need to introduce myself. I think Larry has done a pretty good job of that. And today's conversation around career hurdles is really one that I'm passionate about. And I'll tell my story in a bit, because I realize that a lot of us sometimes just stumble into things, especially where career is concerned. And, we don't understand the place of having a plan, having a mentor, or a community of people to guide us. And those are some of the things I will speak to. Okay. Hello, Barakat. I see you can hear me. Okay, so today's topic is, examining the hurdles faced by women in early careers. And in all honesty, this is such a wide topic. There are probably more than 10 or 15 hurdles I could list, and I probably would just list a couple of them, but I will dive deep into only about 3 of them because we don't have so much time. And Larry, if you can help me with the time so that I don't overshoot.
Absolutely.
Hello, Gloria. Thank you. Okay. For the sake of keeping me on track, when am I finishing, please?
You're supposed to finish this session by that will be 12:40. Yeah, 12:40.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, great.
After
So let's dive in. Okay, so let me begin by telling my story. So I finished from the University of Lagos, Great Akokai, Department of English, Faculty of Arts. And I honestly didn't know what I wanted to do with my degree or with myself, after that. Many people just used to think that if you read English, you're going to end up teaching, of course, English. But I knew that that was not what I wanted to do with my life. At the time, the only skill I had was editing and proofreading, because you know how your father's friends here, you're reading English and then they bring things for you to look at, documents to review. So I realized early on by year 2 that I could make money from editing things for people. And that was the one skill I knew I had. But how that was going to give me the fabulous life I wanted, I really could not connect the dots, And that leads me to what I think is one of the first things that we lack at the early stage of our careers, which is knowledge, a lack of knowledge. If I could turn back the hands of time, I probably would have spent a bit more time doing research, to find out, okay, what are the possible career paths for someone who reads English? Who are the people I know who are doing these things? And can I have conversations with them to see what their day-to-day looks like, what their skills are, so that I know if these are things I'm interested in, and I'll put that there. So I finished from school. I served in a bank. I served in GT Bank in the marketing team. And that was when I realized I probably didn't want to work in a bank because, it was quite interesting, the pressure to bring in money, open accounts, all of that. However, I found that working in the marketing team and having to go out and talk to people and just, try and get them to open accounts, because I did that even though I was a copper, I realized then that I liked speaking to people and I liked to engage with people and I liked front-facing roles, and that's when I saw that, exposing yourself to a variety of situations and scenarios, can give you a pointer to what you want to do, in terms of your career. And then I went on after school to start something. If let's say a big brother of mine had told me, he had a business idea he wanted to start. And, he brought me on board basically to build a company with him from scratch. And I found that that was very good for me because it gave me what I call entrepreneurial grit. So I really can build anything from scratch. I now know what to do, but when I look back, I think that also there were some situations where I didn't really make the best choice. And I'll give you an example. So I went for an interview after, in that phase, after NYSC, and looking for a job. And it was in an advertising firm, which is also a good place graduates of English, go to sometimes. And I think they wanted to pay me 30,000 at that time. And I turned it down just because I felt as a couple I was earning 50,000. Why would I not then get a proper job and be earning 30,000? You know, and I didn't know something very important then, which was that at the early points in your career, the only thing you really should be chasing is knowledge and competence and building expertise. Money is great, but money always follows value. Money always follows value. At a point in your career, as you build, you will be able to command as much as you want, provided you have the value. And I didn't know that then, and I didn't talk to anyone. So I turned down that offer, and I think it was one of the top 3 advertising firms. So if I could turn back the hands of time, I probably would do that differently and take that offer. And I went on, and I found that after I finished working with that big brother of mine, I moved into another role in a magazine. And how did I land that role? Someone whose book I edited spoke to someone about me and told them, oh, I worked with this person. She edited this for me. She would be good to be an editor in your magazine. And that was literally how I got that job, through a referral. And that's something really interesting, because I will tell you that 70% of jobs are gotten, if not 80%, are gotten through referrals. So what you see on Jobberman or on LinkedIn, are just a fraction of the jobs available. The real nice jobs, there are many jobs that will never be advertised, but people will recommend people based on what they know about them, based on the fact that they know them. And we'll talk about networking as I go on, And can I say, I think since 2019, which was when I got that magazine job, every job I've had since then has been by a referral. Somebody who has seen something that I've done and spoken to another person about me. In fact, my current job, I don't think my boss has ever seen my CV, but she knows what I've done because she's seen what I did in the last place I worked, and we had that conversation then. And that's, to Larry's point about always leading with value and presenting that value wherever you go. Money opportunities always chase people that bring value. And we can talk later about, how to show that value, So yeah, this is basically a summary of my career journey. And let me now step back and really dive into what we're talking about today, which is, the hurdles. Let me begin by saying that I'm sure we all know that, somehow, unfortunately, Africa is what we call a patriarchal society. And by patriarchal, what we mean is that, basically things are structured around, giving privilege and opportunity to the male folk as opposed to the female folk. And if you think about maybe your primary school, I don't know, but in my time, most times the class captain was a boy, then the assistant was a girl, and we had all those sorts of things. And things are changing because, we are advancing, getting more knowledge, and realizing that women are as competent as men. But, there's still a long way to go. And so with that as the foundation, sometimes the things that women face building their careers early on are different from what men face. Men have their challenges for sure, but women have peculiar challenges. And I'm going to just talk about 3. So there are tons of them. I even have a list of about 10, but I will dive into 3. So the first will be cultural barriers, which I'll speak to. The second will be imposter syndrome and a lack of confidence. And then the third will be a lack of role models, right? So those are the 3 hurdles I want to discuss, and just talk about how you can overcome as a person, and then I'll open up for questions. Okay. I think somebody's mic is on. Do you want to unmute, please? Mute yourself, please. Thank you. Okay. So let's talk about cultural barriers. I think generally in Africa, and we have progressive parents for sure, but most people grow up in homes where the female children are really being groomed and raised to be good wives and mothers. Rarely do you see that, your parents are raising you to be the CEO of a global bank. Most people are raising, and it's fine because the family is the bedrock of society, but I believe that you can win all around. So I'm married, I have 2 kids. I'm very much a career person. In fact, I believe that you should have different sources of income. So you should have your 9 to 5, you should have businesses by the side, you should have great children, you should have a wonderful marriage. I believe you can have it all, of course, within context, So yes, the family is the bedrock of society, but that doesn't mean that the woman that was brought into the world, the girl child that was brought into the world, doesn't have a purpose for her life, doesn't have dreams and ambitions. So most families don't bring up girls, to think in terms of what value they want to add to the world from a career perspective, and this generally speaking, because of course there are exceptions. And so what then happens is, you finish school, for example, and then maybe you start working and you have to work at, let's, for example, if you work in PR, you will definitely be going for events, you will definitely go out. Imagine you come from a family where they just don't understand, why are you not in the house by 7 o'clock? And you say, Mommy, I have to do this and I have to do that. You have to fight that battle, because culturally speaking, they just feel like a woman should be doing certain things, and be, I don't say seen and not heard, but there's an expectation culturally that sometimes if you want to really get ahead in the early stage of your career, you need to set those boundaries down respectfully and say, because of my work, I will need to do X, Y, and Z. I cannot come home by this time. I have this event, I have this, I have that. And I want to say something really important to everyone on this call, which is that ambition is not a dirty word. A lot of times when you hear the word ambition, people just have this picture of, I don't know whether it's the woman in Devil Wears Prada, where you step on everyone's head to get ahead at work, and you don't have a husband, you don't have children, you're just living for work, and that's what ambition looks like for many people. But that's a negative connotation. I think we need to rewrite that in this generation. Say ambition is not a dirty word. Personally, I believe that God gives all of us dreams. He gives us visions. He gives us, things that we can aspire to and want to become. And then it's the onus is on you to then nurture that and not allow society crush it. So cultural barriers stand in the way sometimes when women are in, the early stage of their careers. You hear things like, oh, you're not married, why are you buying a car? Maybe she's working in a job where they have to give her a car. Maybe the car will help her get ahead. And why shouldn't she have a car? Why can't she marry a man that even wants to give her a bigger car than that? And so you hear things like that want to make you shrink and just do as little as possible. But my dear, you can dream and you can dream big. You hear things like, why do you want to get a PhD? Have you married? These are all cultural barriers, and they're things that you need to navigate, knowing who you are, knowing the dreams that your heart, because at the end of the day, you can live a life that's not fulfilled if you keep listening to what everybody has to say about who you should be and what you should do. I think that it's only God that should have the last word on who you are and what you should be doing with your life, And of course, I know there are nuances to these things, and I'm happy to take questions afterwards. So that's the first one, the cultural barriers. And I'll quickly move on to the second one, which I think is important, is imposter syndrome and a lack of confidence. And I think this is really peculiar with women, gosh, because for some reason, the way we are built, we are really self-conscious. And it's very easy for women to always feel like they don't measure up. And there have been many studies to prove this thing. You see a job description with 10 items. A woman has 8 items, but she feels that, oh, I don't have 10 over 10. I can't apply for this job. Whereas you see a man that has only 1 item on the job description and he's applying for it with all boldness. So I think it takes a rewriting, into our brain, this imposter syndrome. We have to, okay, let me explain this a bit, and then I'll tell you the strategies and things that you can do to overcome imposter syndrome. But we need to rewrite into our brains that we are enough for every stage. And as you continue to work on yourself, you are building capacity, you're getting better and better. There's something now that you didn't know yesterday. So, you begin to tell yourself that you are enough. And then in terms of practical strategies for imposter syndrome, I recommend that you write down a list, maybe in your notes on your phone, or you have a journal, write down a list of your wins, a list of the things you've accomplished, a list of the things that you're good at, and consciously and constantly remind yourself, go through it and make yourself aware of those things. let me speak to a lack of confidence, because there's something that a lot of women in the workplace don't know. And it's that confidence is almost greater than competence in the workplace. And I'll explain. In the workplace, if you know two things and you are very confident and loud about it, you will get ahead further than the person who knows 10 things and keeps quiet. You know, the way the world of work is, you need to advocate for yourself. You need to show that you are confident. You need to show that you believe in what you're saying. And that counts for a lot. Confidence matters a lot in the workplace. And for every woman here, I will recommend a book, The Confidence Code, by two women. I need to check their names. Larry, if you can quickly help me Google, but the name of the book is The Confidence Code. It's available in soft copy as well as hard copy. It really lays down the research, because this thing has been proven over and over again that you will get ahead by showing confidence, you know, as opposed to merely being competent and keeping quiet. So what I recommend, of course, for every woman is, you want to be competent, know your onions, do the online courses, read, attend internships, do all the things you can to be competent at your work. It's a non-negotiable, right? But on top of that competence, you need to layer confidence. You need to be bold enough to talk about what you know, and you need to do it fearlessly. You know, a lot of times we've seen all these things on probably Instagram, where a woman is in a meeting and you say things, you know, fill out words, you say things like, I don't know if you talked about this already, but, you know, let me add this. Or you say things like, this may sound stupid, but you don't do that. Don't do that. You need to build your confidence. And very importantly, confidence is like a muscle. Exactly. That's the book. Kathy Kay and Claire Shipman, The Confidence Code, is a fantastic book. Please get it and read it. Yes, I was saying that confidence is like a muscle. The more you do things, the more confident you become. And that confidence makes you do even bigger things. And it's like a cycle, right? So for you to build confidence, you need to do something. And then that gives you the confidence to do even bigger things. And the very easy place to always start with is volunteering. It's a low risk, high impact situation when you volunteer somewhere. You get the chance to build competence, you get the chance to get feedback, and the risks are minimal because, you know, most times the stakes are not as high as, you know, if you were a job and someone was going to fire you. You'll get feedback as well, you know, and I'm sure North Star Initiative is open to having people volunteer and spread the word and all of that. And there are many organizations. I know in Unilag there we have ISEC, we have Junior Achievers, we have so many. So if you look into it, make sure that volunteering is part of what you do. And can I tell you that it's a hack for greater things in life, by the way? Not only are you building competence and confidence with volunteering, but when you want to do your master's or some program later in the future, they always want to see how you've given back to society, how you've you know, given value, you know, so it's a very good thing to do. And I'll just put that out there. Okay, so please just remember the confidence thing. Confidence is a muscle. You have to put yourself out there, no matter how many times you've messed up. You know, whether it's public speaking in front of your classmates and you stuttered, you know, you have to do it again. The more you do it, the better you become at it. And it becomes this positive cycle as opposed to being a vicious cycle, you know, where you build confidence over and over again until you continue to keep winning. Okay, so the third thing I'll talk about, you know, barriers that women face early on in their careers. And okay, let me add, before I go on to the third thing, we live in a cultural context, which is Nigeria. And I find that Nigeria and, you know, the wider African region, confidence in Africa is an interesting topic because here we sort of don't like it when people, and I'm speaking maybe for the older generation, they don't like it when people talk back. They don't like it when people look into their eyes directly. I remember when I was a child and mom was talking to me, she said, "Stop looking at me, look down." if you travel abroad, for example, and you want to work in the UK and you don't look your boss in the eye when you're talking to him, you'll get feedback that, she's competent, but she's not a very confident person. So I think we need to be aware of the cultural nuances. If you're working for a Nigerian boss who is, exposed, like in GT Bank where I served, you call everybody by your first name. And it was so awkward for me. You can imagine, how old was I then? I think I was just 20 or 21. Calling my boss, who was in her 40s, by her name Rose. In fact, at some point, I started calling her Mama Rose because I just couldn't. But that was the culture of the company, right? It was very progressive. But if I was working in a local government office, there's no way I would call my boss by her first name. So you want to take the cultural context into consideration. But know that if you are out of this country, you need to look people in the eye, you need to address them firmly, shake hands firmly. You don't do anything that portrays weakness, that's just a side note. Okay, so the third thing in terms of barriers that women face in early career, I would say, is a lack of role models. And it's so important, a lack of role models, and I will add mentors. And I'm really passionate about this one because I really feel like people will make less mistakes if they have people who have gone ahead of them that they can speak to and get advice from. But a lot of people are building in silos and just, trying to figure out life by themselves or with their friends and make mistakes that they shouldn't. So also in terms of role models, sometimes if you've not seen, I think we really grew up not seeing women, in leadership roles as much as we could. Things are beginning to change, but again, on two hands, you can really count how many women. So Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, maybe you count Obi Ezekwesili and Dora Queenly, and you start struggling to really find those women who are in leadership roles that you can look up to. But at the end of the day, there are still a few, and I feel like whenever anyone enters into a leadership role, it's also sending a signal to you who are just starting out to tell you that if they are there today, you can be there tomorrow. So I encourage you to actively look out to build relationships with people who are more senior to you. LinkedIn is a fantastic tool for this. And what you can do, if you know what you want to do or you know the industry you want to go into, you can look for women there, craft a polite note, ask for 15 minutes of their time over Zoom to just ask a few questions. Come up with thoughtful questions, ask them, direct pointed questions about how you can go from point A to point B. And then after a while, send them another email or a message, giving them feedback on how you've taken action on what they've said. Don't tell them outright, I want you to be my mentor. That thing scares people. Just say, oh, can I have a few minutes of your time? I would like to learn from your expertise or learn from you about X, Y, and Z. Very, very, straight to the point and all of that. And that's how you can begin to build a relationship. Every time you come back and say, oh, this is what I've done with what you told me, the person begins to note that, oh, this girl is a serious person, and they begin to want to help you. And as the relationship matures, they can also then vouch for you in their network and say, oh, I know someone looking for you, a person that has your skill set. Let me do an introduction. But you can't come from nowhere and just see someone online and say, oh, I want you to be my mentor. They probably won't even respond to you. I think also sometimes, even within your circle, so in your church or your place of worship, there may be people that you can talk to who are doing well in their careers, who may be able to offer guidance, and if one person doesn't respond to you, don't give up. Try a second person, a third person, and be intentional about building, what I call a personal board of directors. So it's a board of directors, but for your own life, people who are interested in your progress, who can give you advice and all of that. And it helps so much. It shortens your learning curve. You make less mistakes, and these people can be there through your life to help you. Let me also say that, okay, I have 2 more minutes before I open for questions. That another thing that really slows women down as they build their careers, at the early stages, the lack of knowledge. And that can be solved by having the right mentors and role models in your life. Sometimes you just don't know you're an opportunity away from greatness. And there's too many fellowships and programs. Yearly, that's the Mandela Washington Fellowship. stunning scholarships, so many things. People just assume that it's for a certain category of people. But sometimes the problem is that you just don't know. You don't know someone that has done it that can even tell you it's not as hard as you think. You don't know that someone is looking for someone with your qualifications. Like they're looking for someone who studied in your faculty, in your department for a certain opportunity. But if you don't know people that can guide you, you lose out on those opportunities. So it's important to really look for those role models, look for those mentors, and seek after knowledge, especially at the early part of your career. It will set you up for success, shorten your learning curve. It would minimize errors and really just help you progress faster. So it's 6 seconds to go by my clock. Thank you for listening, and I'm happy to take questions. So you can either unmute or I guess you can put in the chat. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, ma'am.
Hello, Aisha. Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for a very, very insightful talk. It's been wonderful listening to you, and I loved, the points you gave, especially about confidence, right? My question is regarding, you made a point about, reaching out to people on LinkedIn if you know what it is you want to do. So I wanted you to address, if you could address, how those who are not yet clear or not yet sure of what it is they want to do, how can they go about connecting, to other women and give them or help them?
Okay,
Thank
that's
you.
fine. Thank you, Aisha. So I love this question a lot because even I didn't have clarity on what I wanted to do till maybe, would I say 5 years back, So I'm passionate about those of us that don't have clarity early on, and it's great. So one thing I will say to start with is that clarity comes from doing. You don't get clear on what you want to do by sitting down and worrying about it and calculating about it. You go and put your hands in as many things as you can. So that's where volunteering comes in. For example, you can see a conference like the New Media Conference run by Olori Supergirl. They usually call for volunteers. If you volunteer on the digital marketing side of things, for example, and you become their social media poster, you get experience in social media management that way. You can volunteer to be maybe one of the people at the registration stand. You can basically put your hands in many things through volunteering, and that will help you begin to streamline what you want to do. And then to your point of how you can get people to mentor you, you can ask people generally to hear their own experience building a career. So I don't know what I want to do yet, but I have been exploring and researching, and I'm interested in learning about your field as a UX writer. Could you spend 15 minutes of your time to tell me what your day-to-day looks like and what kind of skills I will need to build to become an excellent one? That sort of thing. So at the point where you're not sure what you want to do, you can learn about what they're doing. And may I also say that even though you're not sure of what you want to do, at this point in time, you may know what your strengths are, you may know what your weaknesses are. And if you don't, I recommend that everybody goes and does a SWOT analysis. You can do a personal SWOT analysis. You can do a DISC assessment, and this self-awareness is so important. They're all online. You find free versions online. These assessments, especially DISC assessment, they help you really narrow down on your personality, how you like to work, and just give you some insight that you've not thought of, through random questions. So when you know your strengths and your weaknesses, it sort of already tells you the sort of things that you probably will be good at. As much as coding and tech is all the rave now, I will probably never do that because I don't think that my strengths are fashioned that way, And you should be able to say one or two things, knowing what your own strengths and weaknesses are. So if you do know that, you can then narrow that then down to certain fields and then talk to people who are in those fields, or just speak to women or men generally about their own career journeys. Let them teach you from their own careers, and you will learn the lessons that can be transferred or applied to your own situation. I hope that helps.
Yes, it did. Thank you very much, ma'am.
You're welcome. Okay, so I see. Okay. Hi, good afternoon. Who's speaking, please?
Okay, thank you so much for the lecture. Well done. So
Thank you.
actually, if I'm to get you right, you said in order to improve better on which whatever career we are in, we should try to, how will I put it, volunteer in some aspect. Yes, right? In a situation where, okay,
Okay, go ahead. Finish your question.
okay, in a situation whereby someone does not have, how will I put it, does not know how to go out there and volunteer, does not even have idea of the company you can go out and do volunteer service for. What can someone do in that kind of situation? Like, how can someone go out there and see company that will either build someone up on that career someone is planning or is into? So that's what I'm trying to say.
Okay,
I hope you
thank you,
got my
Amino.
question right.
Yes, I think I did. So I think the
Okay.
first part of the question is, where can you find these places where you can volunteer?
Yes, exactly.
Right, good.
Yes.
Okay. So I think that question is literally a Google query away. If you Google non-profits or foundations in Lagos, quite a
Okay.
number of them will come up. And the thing is, we all have different interests. There are foundations or non-profit set up in the education sector. There are non-profit set up for entrepreneurs. There are non-profit set up for women and women escaping domestic violence. So you must be interested in something, and then you find an organization that does that thing to partner with them. There are a lot of them. If you Google, even within school, I know I mentioned places like ISEC, I mentioned Junior Achievers. I think there's also JCI. These I know are on campus, and you can also volunteer with them. So it's literally a Google query away, to find these organizations. And I think this is more for people who really don't know what they want to do, but want to get some experience, or people who know what to do and you can pinpoint, okay, I can help these people do X, Y, and Z. Yes, African Students for Liberty. So please check the chat. There are a couple of organizations. Even North Star Initiative is open to volunteers. And it's really a good way to build competence. Temiloluwa, your hand is up, please.
Good afternoon, Ma. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hello, Temiloluwa.
Thank you so much for the insightful program. My question is, how, as a young business owner that's dealing with school, how do you cope with the fear of expansion? So I own a business and it's pretty small scale right now, but I have this fear of expansion. I know I can expand. I know I can do more things, but I'm just it's going to be a lot for me with school. How am I going to deal with it? But I know I can do more. But I'm also really afraid that once that more comes, how am I going to merge it with school? So thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Timmy. That's a really good question. And I think everything, as a business person, everything rises and falls on structure. What's the structure you are putting in place to handle more orders, more deliveries? Does that mean you need to hire more people? How do you train those people? So basically, you have to then put on paper the structure that you are planning to put in place to handle what you will call more. Because at the end of the day, whether it's more business or more responsibility at work, we must build capacity to handle it. If not, we will buckle under the weight of it. And it's great that you're asking. So as a business person, I think you want to be thinking of what that looks like practically. If you're hiring more staff, you need to think of the time to train them. You will need to put structure in place so that they know what to do. So oversight, and all of those things. I also want to say that you really shouldn't be afraid. You counter fear with knowledge. So if you know what you need to do and you think you have the capacity to do it, then you can deal with the fear. If you don't know what to do, that's when there's confusion. But it's going to boil down to human resources, capacity in terms of maybe labor, or if it was a software business, I would say maybe you need more bandwidth, or all of those things. So you need to list what you need, put it down on paper. What do you need to take yourself to the next level? And can you meet that need right now? And then make that judgment call. But please don't play small. I always encourage women to dream big and put whatever needs to be put in place. Whatever structure needs to be put in place. Go.
Hi, good afternoon, ma.
Good
Thank you so
afternoon,
much.
Chelsea.
Please, I wanted to ask you, like, as regards like getting a job and all, I wanted to know if it's like, professional exams for like maybe the course you are studying and all. Do you think it's advisable to like write your professional exams before you are done with your university, or be after? Like, is it advisable to do it before or after? Hello?
Yes, Chelsea, I heard you. Thank you. That's a good question. Interestingly, when I was in year 2, sorry, Moses Precious, can you mute yourself? Thank you. When I was in year 2, I had a roommate in year 4, Bosse, who was writing her ICANN exams, and she actually qualified by the time she was, graduating. However, I find that, so I'm going to talk about it from 2 perspectives. I just wrote a professional exam for Chartered Institute of Marketing. My final paper it wasn't an exam, it was a project. It was this year. And the difference is that now, because I'm working, I can actually apply knowledge of my work into the exam. That's what makes it easy for me. However, when you do it, when you're in school, you have all the time in the world. You have all the time in the world, and I think that time should be put to good use. So if you do write a professional exam when you're in school, you are maximizing your time, because as you get older, you get busier, you just keep getting busier. So what I would say is think about it. If it's something like ICANN, also you have the money, you have the time, I would say yes. But bear in mind that some of the concepts may not come alive till you actually start working. That's just the thing. I hope that helps.
Yes, ma. Thank you so much, ma.
You're welcome. Hello, please. Ayola, please, your hand is up. Okay, while we're waiting for Peace to unmute herself, there's a question in the chat. This is from Oyin Consola. How can one make meaningful connections with one's peers, especially in the faculty or with one's classmates, especially as someone who doesn't really know how to interact with people? I love this question, Oyin, because I used to be very shy at some point, and I didn't know how to relate with people. And so I'm going to recommend a book for you in the chat. It's called How to Make Friends and Influence People. This is one of the greatest books. In fact, the top 5 books of my life, I always put this book because it really helped me. Very practical. And it's about Dale Carnegie. So I encourage you to get this book. And basically, the fundamentals of this book are that you make friends with people when you show that you are interested in them, as opposed to always wanting to talk about yourself. And so, they will tell you things like, when you're talking to people, ask them about, themselves, ask them about their work. People like to talk about themselves, and that's why, I recommend it. It will help you get out of your comfort zone to talk to people. And life is about relationships. I always say that when we're praying for God to bless us, God will not throw anything down from heaven, but he will send people to our lives. He will send relationships to us. And I think this is a good way to close this session. When we honor the relationships God brings into our lives, through networking and all of that, when we treat people right, we open ourselves up for advancement, in our careers and other things. So it's really important that you learn how to relate with people and you learn how to treat people well, because that is how life advances, through the gift of people. Thank you so much, Larry, for this opportunity. I will hand this back to you.
Thank you, Larry. And hi, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here. Please confirm that you hear me and see me.
Yes, I can see you and I can hear you, even though there was a bit of network interruptions.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's fine. Is it better now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Can someone in the audience please confirm if they can hear Tolu? Okay, I think someone wrote.
I can hear her.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, great. So good afternoon, everyone, once again. And thank you, Larry, for the warm introduction. Thank you for gassing me up. And it's very importantly, I have to appreciate sharing these very insightful things from her presentation. And just to be sure that we are listening, I want one or two people to tell me what they are going to do differently from listening to Sharon's presentation going forward, what they are going to do and how it's going to like impact their career going forward. So I just need two people. I can see someone raising up her hand. Please unmute and speak.
Sorry, please. Why I'm raising hand is because I can't hear what you're saying, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Is that applicable across board?
Okay, I can hear what you are saying now.
Okay.
I think I can hear you now. A little bit.
Actually, are you still on the call? All right, let's give a few minutes to, I think she's having a network issue. All right, just. All right, I think she's back. Hi, Tolu. We can't hear you because your audio is muted. And perhaps I want to suggest.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Right. I want to suggest.
So I had to change. Hello?
Hi.
Okay, yeah, I think there was a lag. I had to switch to a different internet provider. So I'm hoping this should cover us for now.
Okay, all right then, absolutely.
Okay, great. So, I want one or two people to tell me what they are going to do differently from the presentation that Sharon, we're actually learning, and then go ahead and. Is someone raising up their hand?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon,
Yes,
ma'am.
please go ahead. Good afternoon.
Okay, so what I'll be doing differently is the first thing I'm going to do is to get the book, The Confidence Code. Right, and I'm going to make sure that as I read it, I try my best to apply the steps in there. And then I'm also going to try to get clear on my strengths and weaknesses, because I asked the question that what do you do? How do you begin to get mentors if you're not yet clear on what it is exactly you want to do? And she gave pointers regarding that. So that's, I think I want to really tap into and apply. And then also, while I've been volunteering, right, I think I want to like make more time to be able to like volunteer for organizations and stuff like that, and dabble into different things rather than restricting myself to just a certain area. Okay.
Thank you very much, Aisha, for sharing. I think I have my second person, Olami Pedro. You can go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon. What I'm going to do differently would be having confidence in myself and try to learn about myself to be able to do what I'm not able to do before. And what I also learned is I'm going to learn how to get the role model
to help my career. And in the cultural aspect, I'm going to learn how to not let cultural influence affect what I want to do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Although the latter parts I didn't really get to hear, but I heard what both of you said. And I mean, I'm happy to know that we are taking one or two things from this call and that we intend to actually implement that. Larry, do you want me to share my screen or would you be doing that from your end? Because I need hosting rights to do that.
Absolutely. I will make you the host.
Okay.
Okay, I just did.
All right, thank you. So I'll be sharing my screen now.
Yeah, I can see.
Okay, you can see now. All right, great. Just to manage the network, I'll be switching off and on my video just to avoid a lag. So we already understand the theme of this program, and it's the glass ceiling, examining the hurdles faced by women in their early careers. And Sharon has done an excellent job in introducing some of these hurdles that we face as young women in list each and every one of them on this call. But I think the most important, some tools that can help us navigate through some of these challenges. Now that we know that there are several hurdles to be faced as one starts and progresses in their careers, in the next few minutes, I will be sharing some tips that will help you prepare to overcome these hurdles. And I've actually come up with a 3-pronged model, basically. And it's basically a simple model for early career take. So understand that many of the participants on this call are undergraduate in their career in the next few years. So these approaches under this framework ahead, I'm sure that you'll be able to pick one or two things. Okay, so can you confirm that you can still hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So now
Yes,
I'm going to start with learning. Great. So starting with learning, I'll just take it back to a few years ago when I was in school. And I had this very smart friend. We were both in Faculty of Law, University of Lagos. So yes, great Akokite again. But yeah, back to the story. So we were, I think, in our third year, either third year or fourth year in school. And we had an interesting conversation. We talked about how the school system, the university system is designed to ensure that you progress year on year. So you move from year 1 to year 2 to year 3 to year 4 and 5, 6, depending on whatever course you're taking and the length of time required for that course. But the idea is whether or not you do any carry over course and having to take that exam again, it's fairly certain that you progress through your journey. So you go home, who says, oh, what level are you now in? You say you're in 200 level, and they know that, oh, last year you were in 100 level. So they realize is that we are getting to the close of our time in school. And by the time we finish our studies in school, in that automatic system will sort of take a back seat. And what does this mean? It means that if one is not intentionally putting structures that ensures that you are learning and progressing year on year, you find out that in a few years' time, you are where you started knowledge of your school days. So what am I trying to say here? I'm trying to say that I am done with school. And this doesn't even have to be formal education. It's basically identifying some key skills or key learning areas that you need that will help you progress in your career. And the key word in this session is intentionality. You learn to random acts of nature, that is, oh, if it happens, it happens. You have to be intentional, and that you have to structure it. So my call to action for you is that you should identify to build knowledge around and make it make the goal very specific, measurable, achievable. You don't leave your goal in limbo. So that's the first point. That's your career. You will be quickly judged you will be quickly judged on the technical capabilities that you bring to your team members in terms of the value. People would watch how you can prove that you know your stuff. People would watch out for your learning aptitude. So at this level, the expectation is not for you to know everything, but for you to know the bare minimum required for your level and to show that you have the aptitude to take on additional learning that will then push you to the next step. So that's the first key point here. And then the second one is on relationships, right? I'm trying my best not to say relationship is the most important aspect of your career. But the point is that relationships is so important, it's too important in navigating challenges in your early career, and then in even growing, should I say, easier to go along and to overcome these problems that we've identified earlier. So for the purpose of this part of this model, I'm going to break it into internal relationship and external relationships. So what I mean is, for internal relationships, this has to do with relationships with yourself, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Understanding your triggers, understanding how you manage yourself effectively. And the reason is that if you do not manage yourself, and if you don't understand and manage yourself effectively, you would not relate with others effectively. So my focus on this presentation is our relationships. And why is this so? I'm saying this because it's always of great benefit to have others speak on your behalf when it comes to your career. Of course, it's a great place to be in when you know how to articulate the value that you bring to any organization or any team. That's an excellent place to be. But in a situation where everybody is articulating this great value that they bring to the team and the organization, usually what sets you apart is that people that matter can speak on your behalf, that is, people that are external to you. And this simply means that you need to have built that relationship, cultivated that trust that will enable people to speak on your behalf. Now, I'm sure that so many of you here will probably have one or two friends that you love, you appreciate. I mean, this person is your G. But when it comes to certain opportunities and maybe certain requirements to deliver on, you probably are unable to recommend this person for such opportunities because you don't trust that they will deliver in that circumstance. And this is a reality for many people because it's not enough to be liked. It's not enough to have friendship with somebody. There's an important aspect that you must also have, and that's trust. Trust is beyond being reliable. Trust is beyond knowing that one can count on you. Trust is beyond all of that. People need to know that you would do what you say and that you will deliver effectively. Can you still hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So, because at this point, I want to share a 2-minute video on what trust means. And I want you to pay rapt attention to this because I'm going to ask one or two people to tell me what they were able to pick from this video and how it's going to impact their relationships with people going forward. So I'm going to be pulling that up now.
Okay, everyone. While we are waiting for the video to come up, please, if you check the chat box, right? There's a Google form that has been shared with you. Kindly fill out this attendees form. All right, that is the people on this list are the people we're going to be reaching out to afterwards for the recharge cards. All right, and also that is where for those who are law students who are interested in the internship, right? That is where you are going to signify your interest. All right. Thank you, guys.
The ability to build trust is one of the core capabilities of any leader. And yet, while we have an intuitive feel for when trust is present and when it's absent, it is...
Can you hear the sound from the video?
Yes, I can.
It's difficult sometimes to identify the exact building blocks of trust. The trust equation of David Meister helps shed light on how to build trust with others. According to the trust equation, 3 things build trust. First, credibility. Credibility is the words we say, the skills and credentials we bring, and the way in which others experience our expertise. Second, reliability. Reliability is the actions we take, our predictability, and the ways in which others find us dependable. Third, intimacy. Intimacy is the extent to which others feel they can confide in us and perceive us as discreet, empathetic, human, and safe. And there is one thing that destroys trust, namely self-orientation. Self-orientation is the extent to which others feel we are focused on ourselves rather than on them. And no matter how strong your credibility, reliability, and intimacy are, if you're high on self-orientation, if you're focused on yourself, then building trust is difficult. So, as you think about the trust equation and its 4 elements, credibility, reliability, intimacy, and self-orientation, which element do you value most in others? And which element do you think others value most in you?
All
For
right.
this and other perspectives,
So, can anyone tell me what they were able to pick out from this short video?
May I speak?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so I didn't get all of the details from the video. I think I only stopped at the point of where he mentioned credibility. The other parts, I think it was probably a network glitch. I don't know if it was from my end, but I got the part about credibility being essential in building trust.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for sharing. That's an important one. Can I get another person? Yeah, I can see your hand up. You can go ahead, please.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Okay, so what I learned from the video was it's about the trust, how to trust or how to get trust, reliability and intimacy. We need to really work on our relationship with people. So that's what I learned.
Oh, great.
Like keep
Thank you.
sustain relationships. Thank you, ma'am.
All right. Thanks, Esther, for sharing. Odito, are you with your hand up? Are you trying to answer this? I can see your hand up. Yeah, good afternoon.
So what I learned from the video was that I think the past he said that like we should also look at ourselves and like how we relate with others. Like we give, like it's the way we behave with others that they are also going to behave with us. Like our trust, like the way we trust others also matters.
All right, thank you everyone. Thank you everyone. Thank you for sharing. Those are like key learning points from what I shared. So just to cap it, there's a part I want to emphasize in that video. So basically, it talks about the trust equation as being the summation of your credibility, reliability, your intimacy. So basically, do you do the job well? And even if you do the job, I'm going to mute Bumi. Okay, so even if you do the job well, that is, you are credible. Are you reliable to get the job done when you say you will get the job done? So it's one thing to be credible, it's another thing to be reliable. So yes, Aisha, the link will be shared with you after this presentation. And intimacy is such an interesting one because in the business setting, you might be tempted to just want to try and make friends and bear your heart out to people, but sometimes it can be the difference between what makes a work environment challenging and what makes it seamless. So it's also something you want to study more on and see how you can bring your best self when it comes to actually being more than mechanical big work. Let people that you are and that you are capable of building relationship. And the most important part of this trust equation is decision, and that is one that is scoring credibility, reliability, and intimacy. So self-orientation is the degree to which you are self-centered as opposed to being others-centered. Someone asked the question, presentation, how do you, if you are maybe introverted, how do you reach out to people? How do you connect with people? And she made reference to the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Basically talking about how if you show that you are more interested in others as opposed to only talking about yourself centered, then it becomes very important. It helps them, and it's when they trust speak highly of you, especially when you are wrong. So I'm going to close this out on values. So I'm going to close this up on values. And for me, this is what underscores the essence of who you are. Your values are what would
Hi, Tolu, are you there? Okay, I think our network tripped. All right, so let's give her a few minutes to get back to us. In the meantime, guys, please fill the form right on the chat box. All right, it's very important. I believe Ola came here as we shared the form over and over again. Okay, so please go ahead and do that. And also, I would like to mention that this recordings, that is, these sessions, all right, both Sharon and Tolu. Hi, Tolu.
Yeah, so for some reason, both my network, I don't know, providers are acting funny. So I was speaking on values. Let me just, that's the last bit. I have about 5 more minutes to conclude this. So I was talking about values being what underscores the essence of who you are really. It's what acts as a filter to what you would say, what you would do. And basically it's like your guiding post to who you are. Without values, you are just anybody and you would end up doing just about anything to get to where you want part-time. So I think it's always an important aspect of any career conversation to spell out your values. That is, you need to take out time to say, what do I consider as important to me in the grand scheme of things? What will I say is the vision for my life? What is my mission? What will I say? What are key, should I say, core values that for me, I can't change? This is who I am. And if I deviate from this, it sort of takes me away from who I want to be. So these are key questions that we should ask ourselves. And I just want to also pull out another call to action here, which is take out time to do some sort of strategic statement for yourself, whereby you're identifying what your vision is, what your mission is for yourself, and then identify your strengths, your weaknesses, the opportunities that you have, and certain threats. That is your SWOT analysis. This is not supposed to be a static document, but this can help you sort of be well positioned as you step into your early career. It sort of helps you identify what areas that you should play in and what areas that even though you want to play in, but you don't have the necessary skills or resources to play in. So again, my call to action for learning is for you to identify the key area that you want to build knowledge around it and make it smart. And for values, I want you to sort of pull up your, what's it called, strategic plan, where you highlight your vision, mission, and you will conduct your SWOT analysis to help you decide what are the easy wins that you can pick from now on. And of course, for relationship, my action point, and this is something that for you will be a day-to-day activity, is for you to, whenever you interact with somebody, try and put that check on yourself. See how self, should I say, how self-oriented am I? So your self-orientation has to be managed such that you are not overly focused on what you are, what you want, what your biases are, but you are actually focusing on the next person that is speaking to you, because in this way you can easily build trust. So I know in the next 2 minutes, my time will be up. So I'll just put a stop to it here. I'm sure that many of these conversations, we can have them as we go along. But for now, these are some tips that you can use to help you overcome the challenges that you face as you step into your early careers, and then even as you go along in life. So at this point, I would rest the presentation here, and then I can take any questions that we have. Thank you.
So I believe someone has said in the group chat that he or she has a question, or she has a question rather. That's Odun Ton Sulayat. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. So do you want to ask your question, or are you going to put it in the chat box?